the studio, kind of literally and figuratively, Matt Wilson, the author of this new book I just got done reading last night, Hooks. You see it, folks? You love it. I actually love the vinyl on the cover. Lessons on performance, business, and life from a working musician. How you doing, Matt?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
Hey, it's my pleasure. And so listen, I dabble in songwriting, right? And so I remember when I first started dabbling in songwriting, somebody close to me, I was giving advice to somebody and they're like, don't listen to this guy. He's musical. So I'm wondering, for the people that think, why the hell am I going to listen to a musician's view of life's lessons? What would you say to them?
Well, in my case, I've lived a lot of life, I know I may not look it, but I'm a middle-aged man and I've traveled the world, been on all kinds of stages. I've run a business for over 20 years. And, I can't say that my advice is right or the best, but I know that in a lot of cases it's worked for me and worked out well. And I believe that a lot of what I offer is based in truth and experience. I know it's based in experience for sure.
Yeah, no kidding. It's funny. When I think about musicians, so first of all, let's address this idea of a career being a musician. That's more of a grind than folks know, right?
Yes, it is. I think what softens that grind, to use your language, is the fact that most musicians feel called or pulled or directed to offer their art, and they're willing to make so many sacrifices to be able to participate in that art and then hopefully make a living out of that art. Musicians aren't the only one or the only industry or only worker, whatever word you want to use, profession that opens the calendar and looks a few months down the road and it's blank. And then just knowing from the relationships they've built and if they're taking care of their business, that it will fill up and there will be opportunity and there will be income. And that's just one step of it. Yes, it's not the easiest of professions, no matter what angle you.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, let's get right into this book. Okay, I'm going to show it again because the cover is actually pretty beautiful. Hooks. What role did you play in the cover design? Any at all? I mean, I like this vinyl look, man. It's pretty cool, kind of retro.
Let me tell you that cover is by TLC Designs, Tamara Deaver. And it's funny, I always stumble over her name, even though she's a very dear friend, because when I tell Siri to call, she doesn't pronounce it right on my phone. So I'm always confused, right? Because Siri's messed me up. Real quick story about the cover. I was working with a very wonderful consulting firm based in Australia. I talk about them in the book, Levy and Associates. And so we were working through things, and this was my first book, so I really didn't have any experience with really any of this other than the content. I had experience with content because that's what I wrote about, but as far as how to make the book. So the book cover and whatnot, I had this idea for a book cover, and I drew a little design, and I told my consulting team what I wanted, and they hired some, based on my suggestions, they hired a graphic designer to put the artwork together, and they came back and I said, well, yeah, it looks fine. And I remember telling my team, whoever my team is, my managers, my wife, my mom, other friends, I said, look, the cover doesn't really knock you out of the park, but it's fine. I mean, a book cover is a book cover, right? I didn't know, right? So Levy and Associates out in Australia, they took a break over the holidays, and they said, let's come back in the new year and then we'll reevaluate. Well, wherever they left me, some of the things I needed to do, I got tripped up. And so the only person I knew to call was Tammy over TLC Design. And I called her and I said, hey, I need some help with this thing on Amazon. And so she goes, well, send over your files and I'll see what I can help. And when I sent over the files, she says, Matt, look, you're my friend and I can't let you do this. I said, what? I can't let you put this book out with this cover, which was the other cover. And so without me even asking her, she did this and it blew me away. And honestly, no matter what people think about the content, everybody says the cover is awesome. So it was serendipitous. It was a surprise. It was divine the way the cover came about. And I'm very fortunate.
Man, no kidding. That's a cool story. I'm glad I brought that up, man. It is catchy. I will say that. And it's kind of it fits into this kind of new 70s retro thing that's kind of happening. So it's amazing, I don't know, maybe it's dumb luck, maybe it's faith, whatever it is, maybe it's just serendipitous that happened. Yeah. So, all right, let's crack the cover now and let's talk about the content. My readers want to know what this is all about. So let's start with the title and the concept of a hook. So if I'm not a musician, tell me what a hook is and why it's worked into this book so heavily.
Right. Okay. So the hook is the part of the song that you remember. Right. So any songwriter that's trying to write pop music, they're aiming for a hook. That part, I'm not going to ask you to sing, but in your mind and anybody listening or watching, everybody think of the song Sweet Caroline. And then in your mind, you're thinking
Sweet Caroline. Bop,
there's your hook.
Yeah,
there's two hooks, but they're the singing part and the horn part. That's two hooks, right? Stuff that you remember, right? So in the book, and I could look it up exactly what I say. Maybe I should, but I think that I say that many compare life to a song, and if that is true, then these hooks are the lessons that I've picked up along the way, the things that I've remembered along the way.
I love it. I love it. It's a nice little way. It's a catchy way. I mean, you think of a hook, right? Just mechanically, a hook digs into something and doesn't let it go by design. So, I mean, it's a nice little cliche way, even pragmatically, to describe what you're trying to do. And that is impart knowledge on everybody reading the book. Now, let's go to the knowledge you're trying to impart. So there's 80 hooks listed, okay? So is it a case where you start writing this book and you just go hook after hook after hook? Or do you have like 150 hooks written down over your lifelong experience as 30 years as a traveling, working, top-level musician? Or do they flow from you as you're writing the book? I'm really curious about your process to define and decide what hooks you're going to tell people about.
Let me say something that will answer that. I'll answer that, but before, one other thing about the hooks is that a lot of some of the topics and a lot of the focus in the book is about developing skills, developing confidence, developing focus, developing business management practice, routine, if you will, right? And something that's good about routine is if you remember to do something over and over and over. And so that's another angle on the hook, that if we're talking about how to get better as a performer, well, then if you apply some of these things, if you remember them, if they are hooks, if they're really hooks and they hook into you and you remember them, then you're going to start to build a routine and become a better performer. One of the things that I always say about my career is that I went from a bar room to Broadway, right? So literally, I was playing with my band at Pete's Piano Bar in Austin, Texas, 1 week, and then about a week later or so, I was on stage fronting Moving Out at Richard Rodgers Theater on Broadway, right? And although that I did have the talent and the skills to deliver, and I won the audition, I earned that part with every bit of effort and talent that I had, and a lot of work that I put into it, there were just other aspects that I wasn't prepared for mentally and experience-wise. So over time, I had to learn about how to perform under pressure and how to deal with anxiety on stage and how to overcome deficiencies in that area of my performance. And so maybe 6 or 7 years ago, I started writing sort of a seminar on how to do that, how the opportunity comes in, what do you do with the opportunity? How do you feel with the opportunity? How do you react to the opportunity? Then how do you prepare? And then how do you use that preparation to then deliver in the moment, right? And I did all that. I even made some keynote stuff. I mean, it was happening. And then, of course, life takes over.
Mm-hmm.
I got kids. I got my career that's, I got to go do my gigs. I got to do the thing. So that kind of went off to the side. A few years after that, a business relationship that I was in ended. As I say in the book, I got fired, but nobody wants to say you got fired. So the guy let me go, and I was sitting around for a few weeks waiting for a new opportunity that I knew was around the corner, but still kind of waiting. And between trying to learn to play guitar and talking to my therapist and praying a lot, I had this wave of inspiration. I mean, literally in a matter of days, these hooks, these 1 or 2 sentence thoughts, lessons started to come to me. And I went with it. In my book, I say on creativity, don't fight inspiration, follow it. If it turns into something great, if not, save it, put it aside. You never know we're going to use it. And so I just started writing, and you ask, are there 100, 150? I mean, there's more than 80. There was more than 80 that was supposed to be in the book, but my consultant was like, man, this book's too long as it is. You guys stop. Put them together. And so, yeah, but along the way, even after the book has been published, I have in my phone a list. And, I did call it, it was called initially Proverbs, Pro, Proverbs, a play on Proverbs. In the Bible, Proverbs, they're little, each verse is a little bit of wisdom, right?
Yeah.
And so I thought, well, let's do a play on words. Proverbs, spelled the same, but professional word, and so in my phone, but I decided that'd be too confusing and all that kind of stuff. So, but in my phone, there's still that Proverbs, and anytime I think of a new hook, I write it down.
Right? Man, that's amazing. Well, I figured as much because, a fellow writer like I am, obviously our first drafts are almost unpublishable, mostly because they're way too wordy and we want to get some more out of the story, and then some publisher reads it and kind of pares it down. So I assume that would be the case. Now, what I typically do when I read these books, any book that has sort of, that I would characterize as imparting advice on somebody, I want to leave the book understanding something in a different way or from a different point of view. I basically start jotting down sort of themes I see. So these are the kind of themes I had when I was reading through Hooks. And like I said, I just finished it last night. I'll give this list to you, and you kind of tell me what sticks out to you, and if you think that what I gleaned from your work is what you would have intended. Okay. So the concept of practice, and deliberate, precise practice, in a fine-tuning every piece of your life, developing, harnessing, leveraging strengths, the strengths that you have, and basically from your own point of view, figuring out what those strengths are that the world needs. Self-criticism and criticism in general, development of patience, using patience as a verb. And I also, along with criticism, I have sort of a dotted line that says dealing with rejection. What do you think of those themes I wrote down as kind of what I walk with from your book?
I think everything. I think there's from everything you said. Yes, those principles are in the book. There's steps to implementing some of what you said that's in the book. There's obviously more in the book, but everything that you said, yes, the patience and recognizing your skill level, getting better, having a sense of persistence, and being open and welcoming criticism. Yeah.
Yeah, I like it. And I think that's the side of, the astounding part of you making a living, your entire livelihood based on music, and then using music to run a business and be a good dad and husband, whatever. It's an interesting concept because people don't understand the level of critique, precision, practice, self-doubt probably that creeps in over the course of your career, right? Even at more mature stages of your career, I'm sure you had all that happening.
Every day, because it's a fluid. Being a life of musician is fluid. I mean, what was once very popular at one point. I mean, just look at pop culture. Let's name the number one song last summer. Well, people still listen to it, but it's not getting the same amount of attention. And whoever was singing that, if they want to have that same amount of attention and have that same spot on the mountain, what do they have to do? They have to do something else. They have to create something else. And often along with that creation of a new song, they have to create a new look, and they have to create a new product, and they have to almost reinvent themselves a lot of times, right? It's a, what have you done for me lately? And so, pardon the noise there. So you where your confidence comes from of being able to deliver on stage, or deliver what it is that, if you're a writer, then you know how to write. If you're a singer, you know how to sing. If you play an instrument, if you're a golfer, whatever, you know how to do those things, but you have to maintain that skill level so that it's competitive in whatever market you're in. And then you have to continue to show that you can do it, right? And so it's not only finding confidence from learning a skill, it's then maintaining that confidence.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. So let's wrap on this. So you get to the end of your book, and you aptly note that previous drafts had basically just ended with the final hook. And a friend, I think it was a friend, acquaintance, maybe a consultant, whomever, said, "Hey, you didn't wrap it up." And
Yeah.
I thought you did. So you have a one-page wrap up, which I love. And in that wrap up, I'm going to read you the paragraph that I really loved, and then let you kind of reflect on when you sat down at the computer to write it for me as we wrap up the session here. So it goes like this. Sing better today, write better today, play with your kids a little longer today, be kind to aggravating customer service reps today, goof off today, practice today, look your best today, compliment someone today. Don't get bogged down in assigning value today. Take in all moments today. Accept earned confidence today. Realize that you are courageous because you face the fear today. Plan for a future and live it today. Today. So reflect on writing those into the computer and finishing the book on that.
I talk about from a performance standpoint that we have a base level. I kind of came up with the term or use that term toward performance, that no matter, I believe, because I've experienced it, that if I practice, if I raise my base level, that base level is defined as the worst that I can perform. So no matter what's going on around me, I could be freaking out because something's not working, or the moment is overwhelming me and I just feel all the anxiety inside me, whatever. But if I have fortified my base level and I have practiced and I've taught my body, my instrument, what to do, that no matter how I feel inside and no matter what's going on around me, if I just stay and keep playing and keep singing and do what I need to do, that I may not be thriving in the moment. I may not be this most wonderful thing, but at least I'll be at a professional level, but I'll be at my base level. It can't get any worse than that. Okay. I believe if I've explained that properly here, that I can say it this way. I believe that we have a base level in life too. I believe that if we pay attention on how kind we are to each other, I believe that if we pay attention how if we give attention to our children and not attend, some dedicated attention there, give attention to our family. I believe if we find out what in the world aggravates us and cause to bring a little bit of anger or frustration, and how we can react to that better, that we can build our base level there also. And the first step is identifying it, identifying in your performance how you can get better, identifying how you can relate to your children better, identifying how you can relate and get along with your spouse better, whatever. I mean, all these things. And I see these things in my life all the time. I'll remind myself if I'm getting on the phone with a customer service rep, hey, Matt, look, this may get frustrating. All right, let's be cool. Let's raise our base level, how we react to that. Or if I'm going in a store and I'm in a hurry, hey, just because you're in a hurry doesn't mean that they have to respond to how you're in a hurry. Be cool. Let's keep our cool. Or, hey, you know what? You've been working all week. It's Saturday afternoon. Just go to the pool with the kids and set the phone down and be a dad and be present. So there is, there's a time for everything. Life in moderation, all these things that I didn't make up by any means. But it goes back to the base level that you can identify parts in your life that you want to get better in. You can get better, whether that's performance-based, business-based, personal, and relationship-based. You can identify those things, and then you have a choice in the matter. You can get better at them, right? Yeah. And so when I wrote that wrap up, if you will, that was just calling back to all the many of the things that I talked about in the book already, and that we can do something about this. We can do so, especially if we're in control. When we're talking about our own lives, we can make things better, and little bitty increments of better really then turn into a giant mountain of better when it's all said.
I love it. I love it. So we'll end on that. Matt Wilson's his name, folks. The book is Hooks, Lessons on Performance, Business, and Life from a Working Musician. Matt, I know my listeners, I know my readers will love this book. I appreciate you spending the 10, 15 minutes with us. And if you ever need anything from me, don't hesitate, all right?
Oh, I promise. I promise. Thank you so much for the time today.
Now, wait a sec. Are you at a piano?
I would never tell you.
No, come on, pan down. Are you at a piano?
Well, I won't pan down, but I can.
Oh, all right. So take us out of here. I love it. Well, Matt Wilson, everybody.
I'm not going to sing, but I will close with a famous Billy Joel song. How about that?
Oh, boy. This is my fictitious beer, Matt. Thank you, sir. Take care of yourself.
All right.